Hey, and welcome to Puzzlehead. This channel is all about engaging stories with clever twists, unexpected turns, and moments that will pull you in emotionally. So, if you enjoy drama, surprises, and endings that truly hit, then you're in the right place. Subscribe and join us for stories full of secrets, intense moments, and satisfying outcomes. Now, don't forget to turn on notifications. The next puzzle is about to begin. The metal click of folding chairs echoed through my living room like a countdown timer. Each snap reminded me why I hated baby showers. Specifically, this baby shower in my house, with my decorations, celebrating a child that might not even be mine. I'm David Chen, forensic accountant by trade, doormat by marriage. At least that's what everyone thinks. The truth is more complicated, but we'll get to that. David, honey, make sure those chairs are perfectly aligned, Stephanie called from the kitchen, her voice carrying that fake sweetness she reserved for company. My pregnant wife of 2 years had been practicing that tone a lot lately, especially when her mother was around. Speaking of the devil, well. Gloria Martinez appeared beside me like a bad omen in designer shoes. My mother-in-law had this talent for cornering people at the worst possible moments. Today, she'd chosen the gift table as her hunting ground. I continued unfolding chairs, hoping she'd take the hint and find someone else to torment. No such luck. David, we need to have a little chat. Gloria's voice dripped with condescension. She positioned herself between me and the kitchen, blocking any escape route. About my daughter's future. The baby shower's starting in 20 minutes, Gloria. Maybe we could— Oh, this won't take long. She stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. I just want to make sure we understand each other. I set down the chair I was holding and faced her. Big mistake. My daughter made a huge mistake marrying someone who can't even afford a real house. Her voice rose just enough to carry, but not enough to seem like shouting. Gloria was a professional at public humiliation. She gestured dramatically at my living room, taking in the modest furniture and simple decorations. I mean, look at this place. It's barely a starter home. Heat crept up my neck. Around us, early guests pretended not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. Mrs. Patterson from next door suddenly became very interested in the gift wrapping. Kim, Stephanie's best friend, had her phone out, probably recording for social media. Thank God her ex Tyler's still in the picture for emotional support. Gloria's emphasis on those last two words made it clear she meant something else entirely. At least someone can provide what she really needs. From across the room, Stephanie giggled, actually giggled. She rubbed her 7-month belly and shot me a look that said, just deal with it. Not a single word in my defense, not even a token protest. I felt my face burning with anger, but simply nodded and continued setting up chairs. What else could I do? Make a scene at my own wife's baby shower? Give Gloria exactly what she wanted? I'm glad we had this talk. Gloria patted my shoulder like I was a child. And it's so important that everyone knows their place. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of forced smiles and passive-aggressive comments. Tyler showed up halfway through, all muscles and confident grins. He hugged Stephanie a little too long, his hand lingering on her belly. The way she looked at him made my stomach turn. Emotional support, I muttered, stacking empty plates. What was that? Kim appeared beside me, phone still recording. Nothing, just clearing up. After everyone left, I finished cleaning in silence. Stephanie had gone upstairs for a nap, claiming the baby was making her tired. Convenient. I was folding the last chair when I found it. A crumpled piece of paper that had fallen behind the gift table. A receipt from the Marriott downtown. Last Tuesday. The same day Stephanie claimed she was at her doctor's appointment. The same day Tyler had posted gym selfies with location tags showing he was nowhere near his usual workout spot. I smoothed out the receipt and studied it. Room service for 2, champagne, strawberries, the kind of romantic setup you don't order for a medical appointment. 3 days later, my phone exploded. 30 missed calls, 17 voicemails, 43 text messages. I stared at my phone screen Tuesday morning, coffee growing cold in my hand. The notification avalanche had started at 6 a.m. and hadn't stopped. Gloria's name appeared most frequently, followed by Stephanie, then a mix of relatives and friends I hadn't heard from in months. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to what happened between the baby shower and the phone explosion. Sunday night, after finding that hotel receipt, I did what any forensic accountant would do. I started digging. My job involves tracking financial irregularities for corporate clients, hidden assets, fraudulent transactions, money trails that don't add up. Turns out, those same skills work perfectly for investigating cheating spouses. Stephanie's phone records were easy enough to access. We shared a family plan and I handled all our bills. What I found made my stomach drop. Hundreds of texts to Tyler over the past 6 months. Late-night calls lasting hours. The pattern was unmistakable, but it was the timeline that really got me. The emotional support had started exactly 9 months ago, right around the time Stephanie would have conceived. I spent Monday morning in my home office, spreadsheets open across 3 monitors, building a timeline that would make any prosecutor proud. Credit card statements showed regular charges at restaurants where Stephanie claimed to be eating alone. Her fitness tracker, connected to my phone for safety, showed she was visiting locations nowhere near her claimed destinations. The gym where Tyler worked, the Marriott, a coffee shop across from his apartment. My wife wasn't just cheating, she was systematic about it. Tuesday morning, I drove to my attorney's office. James Morrison had handled our prenup 2 years ago, back when Stephanie thought she was marrying up. The irony wasn't lost on me. "David, good to see you." James shook my hand, his expression already serious. Though I'm guessing this isn't a social call. I handed him the folder I'd prepared. "I need a paternity test, discreetly, and I want to review the prenup terms." James flipped through my evidence. Photos, receipts, phone records, timeline analysis. His eyebrows rose higher with each page. "This is thorough work, very thorough." He looked up at me with new respect. "Most people come in here with suspicions and hurt feelings. You've built a case. It's what I do for a living." "Right, forensic accounting." He made a note. "The prenup is ironclad, by the way. Separate property remains separate. Infidelity voids spousal support, and..." He paused, checking something. "The house is entirely in your name. Purchased before marriage, with inheritance funds." "Correct. She gets nothing if she cheats, nothing at all." That was the point. James arranged for the paternity test through a private lab. A simple DNA collection during Stephanie's next doctor's visit. She'd never know it happened. Results in 48 hours. Those were the longest 48 hours of my life. I went through the motions at home, made dinner, asked about her day, listened to her complain about pregnancy symptoms while texting Tyler under the table. The performance was almost impressive. Thursday morning, James called. "David, you need to sit down." "I'm already sitting." "The baby isn't yours. 99.97% certainty. I'm sorry." I wasn't surprised, but hearing it confirmed still felt like a punch to the gut. 2 years of marriage, 7 months of preparing for fatherhood, all based on a lie. "What's our next move?" I asked. "Divorce papers are already prepared. We can file today if you want." "Do it!" I spent Thursday afternoon at the office, trying to focus on work while my world imploded. My colleagues noticed my mood but didn't pry. The benefits of being known as the quiet, analytical type: people assume you're always serious. At 5 p.m., I drove home and arranged my evidence on the kitchen counter. Divorce papers, paternity results, prenup copy with relevant sections highlighted, a printed timeline of her affair, hotel receipts, phone records, everything laid out like a prosecutor's closing argument. Then I packed a bag and drove to my friend Mike's house. "You can stay as long as you need," Mike said, helping me carry my suitcase inside. "But are you sure about this approach? Maybe you should talk to her first." "Talk about what? The baby that isn't mine? The affair she's been lying about for 9 months? The fact that she let her mother humiliate me while she giggled?" Mike winced. "When you put it like that, there's nothing to discuss. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences." Friday evening, Stephanie came home to find the kitchen counter covered with evidence of her betrayal. I wasn't there to see her reaction, but based on the 30 missed calls that started Saturday morning, it was everything I'd hoped for. "David, pick up the phone right now." Gloria's voice screeched through my voicemail. "How dare you abandon my daughter in her condition? This is unconscionable." Message 2. "David, it's Stephanie. Please, we need to talk. This is all a big misunderstanding. The baby needs a father." Message 3. "This is Tyler. Look, man, we should probably meet up and discuss this situation like adults." I deleted that one without finishing it. Mike handed me another beer and settled into his recliner. You're really not going to answer any of these? Why would I? What's left to say? My phone buzzed with another text from Stephanie. David, please? We can work through this. I love you. The multiple exclamation points were a nice touch. Really sold the desperation. She's saying she loves you, Mike pointed out. She's saying she's panicked. There's a difference. And she should be panicked. See, there's something Gloria got wrong during her little speech at the baby shower. Something everyone got wrong, actually. I can afford a real house. Several, in fact. The modest home where we lived? That was strategy, not necessity. When you're a forensic accountant, you learn that the flashiest people usually have the most to hide. The quietest people, the ones everyone underestimates, often have the most power. My inheritance from my grandfather hadn't just covered the house. It had covered the house, a diversified investment portfolio, and enough liquid assets to retire tomorrow if I wanted. But I'd kept that information to myself, even from Stephanie. Call it a test of character. She'd failed spectacularly. The prenup she'd signed so eagerly protected her from my modest assets. She thought she was being generous, marrying down to help out a struggling accountant. In reality, she'd signed away any claim to wealth she never knew existed. Message 15 was from Kim. David, you're being really unfair. Stephanie made a mistake, but she's pregnant and scared. Can't you forgive her? A mistake. Like accidentally ordering the wrong coffee or forgetting to set an alarm. Not like systematically cheating for 9 months while letting her mother publicly humiliate me. Your phone's buzzing again, Mike said. Let it buzz. But curiosity got the better of me. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Chen, this is Angela Williams, Tyler's wife. I think we need to talk. Now that was interesting. We met at a coffee shop downtown Sunday morning. Angela was younger than I'd expected, with tired eyes and a wedding ring she kept twisting around her finger. I found the hotel receipts, she said without preamble, and the texts, and the credit card charges at restaurants I've never been to. How long have you suspected? Months, but Tyler kept saying I was being paranoid. That Stephanie was just a friend who needed support during her pregnancy. Angela laughed bitterly. He even said you were okay with their friendship, that you encouraged it because you were too busy with work to be emotionally available. He said what? That you basically gave him permission to be Stephanie's emotional support system. That you were grateful someone else was handling the needy pregnant wife stuff. The audacity was breathtaking. They hadn't just been cheating. They'd been rewriting the narrative to make themselves the heroes and me the negligent husband. I'm filing for divorce, Angela said. Tyler can have his emotional support system. He's going to need it when he's paying child support and alimony. The baby's his? According to the paternity test, yes. Congratulations, by the way. You're free of this mess. I'm stuck with it for the next 18 years. We talked for another hour, comparing evidence and timelines. Angela had been doing her own investigation, and her findings corroborated everything I'd discovered. Tyler and Stephanie had been planning their affair like a military operation. Burner phones, cash payments, elaborate cover stories. What they hadn't planned for was getting caught by two people who specialized in uncovering lies for a living. Angela worked in insurance fraud investigation. Between her skills and mine, Tyler and Stephanie never stood a chance. There's something else, Angela said as we prepared to leave. Tyler's been bragging to his gym buddies about upgrading to a woman with a rich husband. He thinks he's going to get half your assets when Stephanie divorces you. Is that so? He's already picked out the car he wants to buy with your money. I smiled for the first time in days. He's going to be very disappointed. Monday morning brought a new wave of calls and messages. This time, extended family members had joined the chorus. Stephanie's aunt, her cousin from Phoenix, even her college roommate, somehow dragged into the drama. The narrative was consistent. I was the villain for abandoning my pregnant wife over a simple mistake. Stephanie was the sufferer, hormonal and confused, but ultimately loving. Tyler was barely mentioned, just a friend who'd been offering innocent support. They'd managed to flip the entire story. You need to respond to this, Mike said over breakfast. They're controlling the narrative, making you look like the bad guy. Let them. David, I'm serious. Stephanie's been posting on social media about being abandoned. Gloria's been calling everyone in your family, telling them you've lost your mind. They're painting you as unstable. I buttered my toast calmly. And? And people are starting to believe it. Your own sister called me yesterday, asking if you were having a breakdown. What did you tell her? The truth, that your wife cheated and you have proof. Then my sister knows the truth. Anyone who wants to believe Gloria's version without asking for my side isn't someone I need in my life anyway. But Mike was right about one thing. The story was getting out of control. By Tuesday, I was getting concerned looks from colleagues. My boss pulled me aside to ask if I needed time off for personal issues. Even the barista at my usual coffee shop seemed to be treating me with extra sympathy. Stephanie and Gloria had launched a full-scale public relations campaign, and I was losing. Time to change tactics. Wednesday morning, I called my sister, Lisa. David, thank God. I've been so worried. Gloria called me crying, saying you'd abandoned Stephanie and the baby. She said you'd been acting erratic, and Lisa, stop. I need you to listen very carefully. I spent 20 minutes walking her through the evidence, the timeline, the paternity test, the hotel receipts, everything. Oh my God, she whispered when I finished. David, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Gloria didn't mention any of that in her call. She said you were having delusions about Stephanie cheating, that pregnancy hormones had made Stephanie emotional, and you'd misinterpreted some innocent text messages. Innocent text messages, right. What do you need me to do? Spread the truth. Call Mom, Dad, Aunt Susan, whoever Gloria contacted. Give them the real story. Consider it done. Next, I called my boss and requested a meeting. Richard Hayes had known me for 5 years, long enough to trust my judgment and analytical skills. David, come in. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Richard, but I need to address some rumors that might be circulating. I gave him the abbreviated version. Wife cheated, baby isn't mine, filing for divorce. Clean, factual, professional. Jesus, David, I'm sorry, and if you need time off. I don't. Work is actually helping me stay focused. But I wanted you to hear the truth from me before you heard any other version from anyone else. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I never believed you were having a breakdown. You're the most level-headed person I know. Thank you. The truth campaign was working, but it was also exhausting. Every conversation required reliving the betrayal, explaining the evidence, defending my decision to leave. By Thursday, I was emotionally drained. That's when Tyler made his first mistake. He showed up at my office. David Chen? The receptionist looked confused. There's a Tyler Morrison here to see you. He says it's urgent. Tyler Morrison. He'd taken Angela's name when they married. The same Angela who was now divorcing him and taking back her maiden name. The irony was perfect. Send him up. Tyler strutted into my office like he owned the place. 6'2", gym-built physique. The kind of confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. He settled into the chair Maad across from my desk without being invited. Nice office, he said, looking around. Bigger than I expected for someone in your situation. My situation? You know, struggling financially. Stephanie mentioned you guys were pretty tight on money. I leaned back in my chair. Did she? Look, David, I'll cut to the chase. This whole divorce thing is getting out of hand. Stephanie's stressed, which isn't good for the baby. We need to find a solution that works for everyone. I'm listening. Here's what I'm thinking. You drop the divorce, we all pretend this never happened, and things go back to normal. Stephanie stays married to you, the baby gets a stable home, and everyone's happy. And you? I'll step back. Give you guys space to work on your marriage. He delivered this with complete sincerity, like he was doing me a favor. Like I should be grateful for the opportunity to raise his child while he occasionally stepped back from screwing my wife. That's generous of you, I said. I thought so, and hey, if you ever need someone to help with the baby stuff, you know, the emotional support Stephanie needs, I'm always available. Emotional support? Exactly. You're more of a practical guy. Numbers, finances, that kind of thing. Stephanie needs someone who understands her feelings. I nodded thoughtfully. You've really thought this through. I have, and I think it's the best solution for everyone, especially you. Especially me? Well, let's be honest. What are your other options? Divorce a pregnant woman and look like the bad guy? Try to find someone new at your age with your limitations? He gestured vaguely at my office, my clothes, my entire existence. Stephanie's a catch, David. You're not going to do better. The casual cruelty was almost impressive. He wasn't just asking me to accept his affair. He was explaining why I should be grateful for it. You make some interesting points, I said. I knew you'd see reason. You're a smart guy. I am. Smart enough to know that your wife, Angela, is taking you for everything you're worth in the divorce. His confident smile flickered. Smart enough to know that the baby you got Stephanie pregnant with makes you financially responsible for child support for the next 18 years. The smile disappeared entirely. And smart enough to know that when Stephanie realizes she's not getting a penny from me in the divorce, she's going to expect you to make up the difference. Tyler's face was turning red. What are you talking about? You're married to her. You have to pay. I don't have to pay anything. Prenup, infidelity clause. She cheated, she gets nothing. That's not. She said what? That I was broke? That this office, this job, this life was all I could afford? I stood up and walked to the window. Tyler, do you know what a forensic accountant does? You count things? I find hidden money, assets people don't want discovered. I'm very good at it. I turned back to face him. I'm also very good at hiding my own assets. The house Stephanie thinks we can't afford? I bought it with cash. The car she's embarrassed to be seen in? One of 4 vehicles I own. The modest lifestyle she complains about? A choice, not a necessity. Tyler's mouth was hanging open. Your girlfriend just lost access to more money than you'll make in your lifetime. And now she's your responsibility. Congratulations. You're lying. I walked back to my desk and pulled out a folder. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds. I spread them across the desk like a royal flush. The prenup she signed protects her from my modest assets. She thought she was being generous. In reality, she signed away any claim to approximately $4.2 million. Tyler stared at the papers, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally dawning horror. She doesn't know, he whispered. She doesn't know, but she's about to find out, along with everyone else who thought I was the poor husband who should be grateful for his cheating wife. Tyler stumbled out of my office without another word. Through my window, I watched him sit in his car for 10 minutes, probably calling Stephanie in a panic. My phone rang 30 seconds after he drove away. David, what did you say to Tyler? Stephanie's voice was shrill with panic. He's saying crazy things about money and assets and nothing crazy. Just the truth. What truth? What money? Check your email, Stephanie. I'm sending you some documents you should have read more carefully before signing. I hung up and forwarded her copies of everything I'd shown Tyler. Then I called my attorney. James, it's time to go public with the financial disclosure. Full transparency. Are you sure? Once this gets out, it's already getting out. Better to control the narrative. I'll file the amended disclosure this afternoon. The local papers will probably pick it up by tomorrow. Perfect. The truth was about to get a lot more interesting. Friday morning's headline in the Dallas Business Journal read, Local Forensic Accountant's Divorce Reveals Hidden Millions. The article was brief but devastating. It outlined the basic facts: cheating wife, prenup, hidden assets, paternity test results. Nothing sensational, just cold, hard numbers that painted a very different picture than the one Gloria and Stephanie had been selling. By noon, my phone was ringing again. But this time, the tone of the calls had completely changed. David, this is your Aunt Susan. I owe you a huge apology. I had no idea about, well, everything. If there's anything you need, David, it's your cousin Mark. Just saw the news. Holy crap, man. I mean, holy cow. Sorry, just wow. Mr. Chen, this is Rebecca Martinez from Channel 8 News. We'd love to interview you about your divorce case and the financial aspects. I declined the interview requests, but took the family calls. The narrative had shifted overnight from David abandoned his pregnant wife to David was betrayed by a gold-digging wife who didn't realize there was no gold to dig. The irony was delicious. At 2 p.m., Mike called from work. Dude, you're famous. Everyone in my office is talking about your case. The general consensus is that your wife is an idiot. She's not my wife anymore. Papers were finalized this morning. Already? That was fast. Infidelity with paternity proof expedites things, especially when the other party doesn't contest. She didn't contest? Hard to contest when you're caught red-handed. Stephanie signed the papers yesterday evening. What I didn't tell Mike was why she'd signed so quickly. After receiving the financial documents, Stephanie had called me 17 times in 2 hours. When I finally answered, she'd tried every approach in the book. First, denial. This is all fake. You're making this up to hurt me. Then anger. You lied to me. You made me think we were poor. Then bargaining. We can work this out. I'll end things with Tyler. We can start over. Then desperation. Please, David. I'm pregnant and scared. I made a mistake, but I still love you. Finally, acceptance. Fine, I'll sign your papers. But you're making a huge mistake. Tyler and I are in love. We're going to be very happy together. I'm sure you will be, I'd replied, on his gym manager salary. The final call came from Gloria at 6 p.m. Friday. David. Her voice was different, smaller, less commanding. I think we need to talk. Do we? I may have misjudged the situation. You may have. I was trying to protect my daughter. A mother's instinct, you understand. I understand that you publicly humiliated me at a baby shower in my own home while your daughter carried another man's child. Silence. I'm sorry, she said finally. I was wrong about you, about everything. Yes, you were. Is there any chance you might consider... if Stephanie ended things with Tyler... Gloria, your daughter's in love with Tyler. She's carrying his child. She chose him over me repeatedly for 9 months. Why would I interfere with her happiness? Because Tyler can't provide for her the way you could. And there it was, the truth behind the apology. Not remorse for the humiliation or betrayal, but panic about Stephanie's financial future. That sounds like Tyler's problem now, I said, and hung up. Saturday morning, Angela called with an update. Tyler moved out yesterday, took his clothes and his protein powder and left everything else. Where did he go? Stephanie's apartment, I assume. Gloria kicked them out of her condo Thursday night after the news broke. Apparently, having a cheating daughter was bad for Gloria's reputation at the country club. Rough week for everyone. It gets better. Tyler's gym fired him yesterday. Something about moral character and representing the brand. Apparently, the story made it to corporate. Unfortunate. David, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you feel bad about any of this? The financial stuff coming out? Tyler losing his job? Stephanie being essentially homeless? I considered the question. Angela, do you feel bad about divorcing Tyler? Not for a second. Then you have your answer. Sunday was quiet. I spent the day at my real house. Not the modest starter home where I'd lived with Stephanie, but the lakefront property I'd bought 2 years ago as an investment. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, boat dock, mountain views. The kind of place Stephanie had dreamed about living in someday. Someday had been available all along. She just hadn't been worthy of it. Monday brought one final surprise. Tyler showed up at my office again, but this time he looked like a different person. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, desperate eyes. David, please, I need to talk to you. I'm busy, Tyler. 5 minutes, please. Against my better judgment, I let him in. I made a mistake, he said immediately. A huge mistake. Stephanie, she's not who I thought she was. Really? She's been screaming at me for 3 days about money, about how I ruined her life by getting her pregnant, about how she gave up millions for me and I better figure out how to make it up to her. Sounds stressful. She wants me to get a lawyer and sue you for I don't even know what. She thinks there's some way to get your money even after the divorce. There isn't. That's what I told her. But she won't listen. She's convinced you're hiding more assets, that the prenup can be overturned, that she deserves half of everything. Tyler slumped in his chair. I lost my job, my wife, my house, and now I'm stuck with a woman who hates me for not being rich enough to support her lifestyle. That does sound like a problem. Would you consider taking her back? The question hung in the air like a bad smell. You want me to take back your pregnant girlfriend because she's too expensive for you to maintain? I know how it sounds, but Tyler, get out of my office. David, please, get out before I call security. He left, and I never saw him again. 2 weeks later, Mike forwarded me a social media post from Kim, Stephanie's best friend. It was a photo of Stephanie and Tyler at what looked like a courthouse, both dressed in cheap formal wear, both looking miserable. The caption read, "Congratulations to the happy couple on their courthouse wedding. Sometimes love means making practical choices. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag new beginnings. Hashtag starting over." The comments were brutal. Person after person pointing out that this was the same Stephanie who'd been married to someone else 6 months ago. Someone asking why Tyler looked like he was attending a funeral. Someone else noting that Stephanie's dress was from Walmart. The final comment, from someone I didn't recognize. Didn't she used to be married to that millionaire accountant? Talk about a downgrade. I closed the browser and got back to work. 3 months later, my attorney called with a final update. David, I thought you'd want to know. Stephanie filed for divorce from Tyler yesterday. Already? Apparently, he's been unable to find steady employment since losing the gym job. She's claiming that he misrepresented his financial situation and career prospects. The irony is incredible. It gets better. She's asking for alimony and full custody, claiming Tyler's an unfit father due to his financial instability and history of infidelity. I laughed out loud. She's using his affair with her, evidence that he's an adulterer? That's exactly what she's doing. Tyler's attorney is arguing that she was an active participant in the infidelity, but Stephanie's claiming she was manipulated and taken advantage of during a vulnerable time in her marriage to you. So now I'm the sufferer? According to her latest filing, yes. She was a confused, pregnant woman who was seduced by a predatory personal trainer while her husband was emotionally unavailable due to work stress. The revisionist history was almost artistic in its creativity. What are Tyler's chances? Not good. He's broke, unemployed, and living in his car. She's got a job at her cousin's real estate office and is living with the baby in a subsidized apartment. Courts tend to favor the parent with stable housing. And the child support? He'll owe her money he doesn't have for a child he can barely afford to visit. It's a mess. 6 months after that, I ran into Angela at the grocery store. She looked good, relaxed, happy, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. David, how are you? Good, you look well. I feel well. Best decision I ever made, divorcing Tyler. How's he doing? Last I heard he was working at a fast food place and living with his mother. Stephanie takes him to court every few months for back child support. He owes her about $15,000 now. And Stephanie? Still working for her cousin, still living in the subsidized apartment. The baby's cute, though. Looks just like Tyler. That must be awkward for everyone involved. You know what the funny part is? Angela smiled. Tyler keeps telling people that if you'd just been a better husband, none of this would have happened. Like somehow your emotional unavailability forced him to have an affair. Personal responsibility isn't his strong suit. Never was. But it's not your problem anymore. She was right. It wasn't my problem anymore. As I drove home to my lakefront house, I reflected on the past year. Stephanie had gotten exactly what she wanted. Tyler, freedom from her mistake marriage, and independence and from her emotionally unavailable husband. Tyler had gotten exactly what he wanted. Stephanie, freedom from his boring wife and the chance to be with someone he considered an upgrade. Gloria had gotten exactly what she wanted. Her daughter away from the man she considered beneath her. And I had gotten exactly what I wanted. Freedom from people who valued me only for what they thought I could provide, and peace from those who mistook kindness for weakness. The only difference was that I was the only one who was happy with the results. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people get exactly what they asked for.